A federal judge blocking this New Mexico governor's firearm carry ban. Wow. Take that, lady. So she tweeted out, I don't know, I think the beginning of this week or something. It was a crazy story where she says, I mean, JB, yeah, he sucks, but this is really bad. So she tweeted this out and she goes, "Today I issued a 30-day ban on open and concealed carrying of guns in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County." So these are counties in New Mexico. And she said that gun violence is killing between 2 to 3 children every month in New Mexico. Every single one of these deaths is unconscientiable and they must be stopped. So she's like, how could these deaths be happening? Okay, first I've got to address this because people always say this, and this is how you are equipped. You have to be well versed in uh, conservative statistics, and not even conservative, just math. You have to be well versed in statistics in order to fight leftists. Okay. So part of the program here on the Morning Buzz is to equip you for your next conversation with a leftist. And you need to know that when people say guns kill children, it's the number one reason why children die in the United States. Wrong. That is false. Children, we should identify children as 12 years old, okay? Up to 12 years old. 0 to 12. Okay? That's the definition of children. It always has been. Just think about the kids menu at the restaurant. What age can you not order off of the kids menu in the restaurant? It's 12. Um but 13 to 19-year-olds, that's what's counted in this statistic that these people have done. And when you take out the gang violence, the young black children who are committing violence against each other in urban areas like Chicago, in these big cities, when you take out the gang violence and the black on black crime amidst 15 to 19-year-olds, I'm not talking about 13 or 14-year-olds. When you just take out like 15 to 19-year-olds, it's not even close. The number one leading killer of children is things like accidents, like drowning, cancer, car accidents, those types of things. Those are the number one killers of children. They distort the actual facts, and they try to count this gang violence between children. And when you take that out, it's not even close. And when you take out suicides too, with children or with teenagers at 19, 18, they're including 18 and 19-year-olds in that study where they cite that kind of stuff. 2 and 3 children in every month. The kids are dying from gun violence. That's what this New Mexico governor tried to say. Well, guess what? The federal judge gave her a big old middle finger and said, nope, you can't do that. No, he didn't actually give her the middle finger. But he did issue a temporary restraining order on the ban. And this was spurred on by a series of civil lawsuits. So people filed civil lawsuits against the governor, similar to what we had here in the state of Illinois when he did successfully issue a gun ban, a magazine, a so-called high capacity magazine ban. So you can't have over 16 rounds in a weapon. Now, the Illinois Supreme Court upheld that, and they sided with JB on that. That shouldn't shock you, considering the breakdown of the campaign donations that JB made to two of the judges on the Supreme Court. Um, so, yes, many officials in her state, though. So, we, unfortunately, in the state of Illinois, Kwame Raoul is like Governor JB's little, like, lapdog and does whatever he says. And Kwame Raoul sided and wanted to enforce that gun ban. So, that particular gun ban where he looked to ban high capacity magazines, so called high capacity magazines. Okay. But this attorney general came out and said, I am not enforcing this 30-day ban on open and concealed carrying. So what she wanted to do was ban you being able to carry a gun at all for 30 days, which I don't even understand. Why just 30 days? Why not just go for it if you really want to ban open carry and concealed carry? Why not just go for it? She wanted to do a 30-day ban. I don't get that, but she also said this quote, "It's unfortunate that so many people opposed my decision." And then she started accusing Republicans of spewing NRA talking points. My God. So good on that federal judge. At least we've got people who understand that this is infringing citizens' constitutional rights. So people filed these civil lawsuits, and mainly the argument was you can't infringe on my right to bear arms. This is shall not be infringed is pretty clear in the Second Amendment. Another news story I want to get to today. And folks, as always, I'm live in studio, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. You can be a part of the program by commenting on the video. You can also text me at 309-451-9299. So that was big news. We've been talking a little bit about that gun ban in this earlier this week. I thought it was incredible that her attorney general said no way. And we're not used to that here in the state of Illinois because the attorney general works for JB. He should really work for the people, but he works for JB because they're best pals. Now I got this story. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. There's been an arrest of a member of this group. And you want to know what for? Masturbating in public. Yes. Well, I could have called that one. So, an active member of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. It's a group predominantly of gay men who openly mock Catholics. And he was arrested in California last month. And Daily Wire's got the story for indecent exposure after witnesses say that he was masturbating in public for an hour. So this is all in the sheriff's report obtained by the Daily Wire. He's a 53-year-old dude. This is just so sad. You lead a very sad life if you are this man. So he's 53 years old. His name's Clinton Monroe, and he was arrested by the police at a beachside park after they received a report that a male was exposing himself in the driver's seat of a parked vehicle. So there were numerous witnesses that put Clinton there at the location for approximately an hour. Oh, sitting in his truck with the door open, masturbating. Wow. A sad, sad little man. And the reason why I bring this up, Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, that might sound a little familiar to you because they made headlines this year because the LA Dodgers decided to honor this group. Yeah, boycott if you were an LA Dodgers fan. Honestly, if you were a sports fan, just boycott it all. Watch college football. It's a little bit better than the NFL. Okay, so what the LA Dodgers did, they wanted to honor the group, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, at the Pride event. So back in June, I think that's LGBTQ month. So the group makes fun of Christianity. This is something that you need to do or know is that these members, it's not just about them being gay. Okay. This is not a gay group. This is not an LGBTQ activist group. This is a group that dresses up as nuns and Jesus, and then they get on top of the cross and use it as a strip pole. Okay, so this is very much offensive to Catholics. They're or Catholics to Christians all around the world. And the media at the time this happened with the LA Dodgers honoring this pride group or honoring the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, they defended the group from people from critics who said that this was a perverted hate group, and uh, the media went as far as celebrating them. And I'm just going to quote some of the members of the media. They said that, and it's amazing how they all say the same thing, quote, dedication to community service. That's what they said about this group, this hate group that's perverted and sick. And clearly, a member of their little group is a pervert because he was charged with indecent exposure. It's a misdemeanor on first offense, but he's going to have to do 6 months prison time. I mean, it can result in 6 months prison time. I don't know if he is actually going to get the 6 months prison time. $1,000 fine, and there is a requirement that everybody who is charged with this register as a sex offender. Woohoo! So that's great news. So a couple of great news stories for you. First, you got the New Mexico governor having the U.S. district attorney flip her off, essentially, and say, no way, you're not infringing on these citizens' constitutional right to bear arms. And then we've got this guy, Clinton. He's a member of that hate group, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. He was arrested for, well, being sad and weird. So yeah, those are a couple of stories I wanted to get to today. I've got time for one more. Let's talk a little bit about Caitlyn Jenner. So I didn't get to this story yesterday, but she was laughing at the restaurants. I think that this is a pretty funny story. Before and after pictures on the bathroom doors. So there's a picture of Caitlyn Jenner on the girls' restroom, like a big blow up. It almost looks like one of those fat heads. I don't know if you know what those are, but it's a fat head of Caitlyn Jenner, and it's plastered on the girls' restroom in this restaurant. And then on the boys' restroom door, there's a big fat head, like picture of Bruce Jenner. And the boys' restroom has like a plaque and it says before. And then the girls' restroom has a plaque and it says after. And I think it's really funny. So we've actually got Caitlyn Jenner here. And she was at this, or well, she saw the pictures of the Texas restaurant and she thought it was funny as hell. That's what she tweeted out. So a Texas restaurant had pictures of Caitlyn and Bruce Jenner up and to identify the bathroom, which one was the men's room, which one was the women's room. And I'll be honest, some of the dumb ways bars label bathrooms makes things a little more confusing. I've seen it, even here locally, sometimes they've got some weird things on the bathroom and you're like, oh, what? So like there was one time, I forget where it was, but it was like Cowgals or something like that. And they named it was like a Western themed restroom and they get creative with naming the restrooms, and sometimes it gets confusing. But I think I think the women's bathroom is always on the right, and the men's bathroom is always on the left, something like that. But this Texas restaurant did this as a joke, and then got cyberbullied in 2017. So this story isn't anything new. It's not a new thing that they've done. This was a story in 2017. And then they got cyberbullied into apologizing. So the Texas restaurant actually apologized back in 2017. Now, in 2023, Caitlyn Jenner thinks this is funny. But back in 2017, this was no laughing matter. And I wonder what 2017 Caitlyn Jenner would say now. I don't think that she would say that or that he would say that it was funny in 2017. But now all of a sudden, because being conservative is cool, he's going to come out and he's going to say, yeah, that's so funny. Now, the term beautiful and brave, I'm sure that you've heard that before. It came from mocking the media hype over Caitlyn's award-winning transition. Caitlyn was still using the ladies' restroom of Trump Towers because how dare President Donald Trump tell her that she couldn't? She was still going to use the ladies' restroom in Trump Towers. That's what she was saying. And the shrill harpies on The View, from The View, were encouraging Jenner to become the first female president of the United States back in 2017. Okay, they were like, "Oh yeah, go Caitlyn Jenner. She should be the first female president of 2017." It's so funny though. As soon as Caitlyn Jenner got on board with MAGA in 2023, this is fairly recent. I don't know when exactly Bruce Jenner or Caitlyn Jenner, whatever, uh, became MAGA, but he has become MAGA, and they were really against these harpies on The View were actually really against Caitlyn Jenner becoming the California governor. If you don't believe me, here we go. This is a clip of them talking about Caitlyn Jenner possibly running. There was rumors or speculation that she was going to run for governor. So here we go. Let's take a listen.
Serious person that doesn't need on-the-job training is probably better qualified.
Right. I would go along with that. I think that she should take a seat and let somebody with the credentials take over a major state like California. I mean, look at Biden, who has so much experience and he's doing a fantastic job. There's your evidence right there. So first,
My gosh, that was Joy Behar on The View, and here they are talking about what a great job President Joe Biden does because he has all of this experience. Oh my gosh, and going MAGA appears to be when a reality star starts to loosen up because actually Caitlyn Jenner really went off on Joe Rogan because Caitlyn Jenner or Joe Rogan made some jokes about uh, Caitlyn Jenner's family. Kind of. It wasn't even really an anti-trans joke, but Jenner took it that way years ago. Now, this Caitlyn Jenner is all about jokes. She actually defended Dave Chappelle from his attackers, who, she even sent out one of her own memes, conservative women versus liberal women. And then she had a picture of herself up there next to some sort of crazy liberal woman with like septum piercing green hair, right? And you can see, that Caitlyn Jenner is more attractive than this other individual. That's the meme. So she's defended Dave Chappelle for his jokes about transgender people. But she didn't, or Caitlyn Jenner did not do that when Joe Rogan did it back in like 2017. And he didn't even really make fun of Caitlyn and the transgender thing. All he really did was make a joke about how crazy his daughters are. And come on, everybody knows that they had their own TV series that was called Keeping Up with the Kardashians. They're absolutely insane. So here is Caitlyn Jenner when he wasn't loose and when he wasn't MAGA. I think becoming MAGA made him less of a stick in the mud because this is what he said about Joe Rogan on TMZ.
Let's get real here. My daughters have obviously done extremely well. They're more famous. They have more money than he has. They have just about everything more than he has. Okay. He's gotten his fame by putting other people down. And
yeah, by putting other people down. And Caitlyn Jenner in this specific TMZ interview went into calling him names. She insulted him. She called him a butt. She called him all kinds of names in this interview. So I just am kind of curious. Would Caitlyn Jenner find this Texas bathroom meme a joke in 2017? Like, would she find it funny as hell in 2017? Probably not. All right, I've got to take a quick break, but when we come back, got to talk about John Fetterman, the impeachment inquiry. Then, guys, you got to stick around for the 8 o'clock hour because I have an exclusive interview with this Arden Young. She was with this Pornhub executive. So there's this viral video out there of a Pornhub executive, and he spills the beans on how the company has supported and monetized rape and child pornography. Okay, so she gets this executive to spill the beans about the company, this undercover reporter. She's going to join me in the 8 o'clock hour. And I've got so much more on the other side. One thing I want to talk about is John Fetterman. I didn't get to that yesterday, so I want to get to that today. You're listening to the Morning Buzz. Text in at 309-451-9299 or see me live in the studio, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. We're going to be coming back. Like I said, we are going to be talking with an undercover reporter. So this undercover reporter has this bombshell story out there where she exposes a Pornhub executive. Okay, so he's pretty high up in Pornhub, and he talks about how there's loopholes in the law to avoid age verification for pornographic videos that could involve children. And Pornhub exploits those loopholes and monetizes off trafficking victims, children pornography victims, rapists. Okay. When videos are uploaded to the site with blurred out faces, Pornhub does not verify the ages of those featured in the video. Following child pornography, this is allowing child pornography to be uploaded with impunity. So, Mike Farley is the guy um, who is working at Pornhub's parent company. I think it was previously known as MindGeek. It's called ALO now or something like that. He admits in an undercover video that executives at the Pornhub company are very aware of the practice and that human traffickers and child rapists are making a lot of money exploiting loopholes in the law to get around um, having to verify the people who are in these videos and getting consent from the people who are in these videos. This should immediately result in criminal indictments and a nationwide shutdown of Pornhub. Ban the site, bankrupt this company, death sentences for pedophiles. Okay, that's at the end of the day, that's what I believe in. If you're watching, go ahead and smash that like button. They need to be held accountable. It is illegal to have children in sex videos, and porn sites are no different than um, Old Man Richard down the street. Yes. So, yeah, exactly. I mean, there it is no different. It's not fantasy. These are actual images of children um, having crimes committed against them. Okay, rape, human trafficking, things like that. And Pornhub acknowledges that that's going on their site, and they do nothing to stop it. In fact, they monetize off of it. So there should be indictments. We're going to be talking with the undercover reporter exclusively here on the Morning Buzz. I'm excited. Um, and we're going to ask her all kinds of questions. And if you guys have questions for her, throw it into the comments section. I am really excited to ask her about this Pornhub documentary. So actually the documentary was about this. Now, if there's a shift away from Pornhub, say that they get all criminally indicted and should happen and the site shuts down. Who's there to step up? I think it will be OnlyFans. OnlyFans, this is a growing um, platform where people go on there and you pretty much are in control of your own um, content. Okay, it's like Facebook, but it's uh, X-rated Facebook essentially, and you get these OnlyFans girls. You get their pictures up there, and people pay for those pictures. Okay, and then it's almost like a independent contractor, and they call themselves sex workers. So I think that there is a big issue with the shutting down of Pornhub too. I want Pornhub shut down, but if we're going to shut down Pornhub, I think we should shut down all of them, including OnlyFans. I'll be right back. Abortion is the leading cause of death for children. Thanks so much for tuning in and texting me at 309-451-9299. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share Cat Peterson on YouTube. That's Cat Peterson 929. Look it up in the search bar. You can see me live on YouTube right now in studio. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. Now, I like this text. Abortion is the leading cause of death in children. I'm sorry, I totally screwed that up, guys. Yes, that is the leading cause of death in children. So this New Mexico lady, she's the governor there, and she tweets out that she wants to do this 30-day ban on open and concealed carrying of guns in a couple of counties. And she said that gun violence is killing 2 in 3 children in every month. Okay, 2 in every 3 children every month. And she said there's no reason for these deaths. Here's the thing. People take these statistics and they manipulate them. And I told you that if you take out the gang violence, if you take out 15 to 19-year-olds, we shouldn't even be counting the 18 and 19-year-olds in children's statistics because they're not children at 18 and 19 years old. But for some reason, we're counting them in those statistics. If you take them out, it's not even close. Car accidents, cancer, those things kill children at far larger rates than gun violence, even if you and then they include suicide statistics in there as well as gun violence. So children who take their own life. This is not bad people with guns. These are kids that are hurting and they use guns to end their life. Okay, so they're taking it and they're twisting it, and they're trying to manipulate people into thinking that guns are bad with those statistics. And you're actually right. It's not car accidents. It's not cancer that are killing kids. It's abortion. Abortion, the statistics around abortion, it's quite insane. So before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about John Fetterman. And I wanted to get to the story yesterday about John Fetterman. I think I got to it on the live stream, but I didn't get to it for the radio friends. We are going to be talking in the 8 o'clock hour exclusively with Arden Young. Arden Young is an undercover journalist with Sound Investigations. She has exposed Pornhub, and Pornhub spilled the beans about how the company actually supports rape and child porn. Not only supports, but they monetize off of it. So they are using loopholes in the law to get around verification. They're not verifying who's in these videos that they're uploading online and then later making money off of these videos. So we're going to be talking with her in the 8 o'clock hour. And of course, I do want to talk about this leftist writer on MSNBC calling Eric Adams Black Trump for saying that the migrant crisis is destroying New York City. So the enemy of my enemy is my friend? No. So he says that these migrants are going to destroy New York City. He's not wrong, Eric Adams, but he's definitely not a Black Trump like this leftist writer is trying to say. So we're going to get to that here in just a little bit. But first, let's talk about John Fetterman. Something's going on with John Fetterman because I don't know what's up with his face. Now, there's going to be a lot of this is a lot of steps that have to happen before we can really get anywhere with Joe Biden and this impeachment. Now, Democrats screwed up. They messed around with Donald Trump. Now they're finding out with Joe Biden. Okay, you messed with Donald Trump. Now you're finding out. Stupid choices win stupid choices win stupid prizes. I think that's the term or the phrase. Let's check in on the other side. Let's check in with John Fetterman. So I've got this clip. I'm going to share it with you. It's very weird, and I'm not sure exactly what John Fetterman's goal here was with this reaction. Maybe you can help me try to decipher it. Let's go. Let's take a listen. Oh, look, John Fetterman. He's dressed for business. Nope, just kidding. He's dressed for Walmart. Here we go.
Asking about this news that Speaker McCarthy has formally launched an impeachment or has said he's going to.
Oh my God, really? Oh my gosh, it's devastating. Ooh, don't do it. Please don't do it. Oh no.
So we're gonna run back to the office, but
So in the video, you can actually see the staffer. He's like, please, John, don't stop. Don't stop. Please don't stop to talk to these reporters. He's like, we really got to get somewhere. And he knows exactly what's going to happen. John Fetterman, he suffered from a stroke, and he's just all over the place. Now, I will say this: after becoming a victim of a stroke, Senator John Fetterman is hard to understand. Uh, but I here at the Morning Buzz, I hired a translator to speak some Fettermanese to explain what the senator just said. So I think he was trying to be sarcastic there, and he was trying to say, "Oh no, the impeachment," and he was like, "Oh, what are we ever gonna do?" And so, like, I think he was being sarcastic there. But I know I'm supposed to hate Fetterman, with him being gun grabbing, pro abortion, commie, and all of that. But honestly, I'm not too upset with his swagger. So his dress. He's a brain damaged guy whose entire job is to look at Chuck Schumer and agree with him. And he knows who he is. So that's why he dresses like that. That's why he wears shorts and he looks like a baked potato. He dresses like a slob, and yet the media says that he's some sort of fashion icon. Okay. But now he's got something going on here with his face. He's got a mustache now. What? This it's like a Freddie Mercury mustache he's got going on. I know his wife hates him, and she's not going to tell him to shave it. So I'm hoping that some sort of staffer, maybe this one who was with him in the video that tried to get him to not answer questions from the media, maybe this little intern can go in while he's napping, take an electric razor, and shave it off because, ugh. Unless the plan is for him to look like he shouldn't be within 50 yards of the school, why does he have that? Why does he have the mustache? So John, or yeah, McCarthy, Senator Kevin McCarthy, uh, the Kevin McCarthy, the House Speaker. Sorry, he is doing an impeachment, and this is what he said about the impeachment yesterday. He wants to hold Joe Biden accountable. Finally, I think that we should have impeached Joe Biden a long time ago. But here we go.
To open a formal impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. This logical next step will give our committees the full power to gather all the facts and answers for the American public. It's exactly what we want to know, the answers. I believe the president would want to answer these questions and allegations as well. This effort will be led by Chairman James Comer at the Committee on Oversight, in coordination with Chairman Jim Jordan for Judiciary Committee and Chairman Jason Smith on Ways and Means. Now, I do not make this decision lightly. Regardless of your party or who you voted for, these facts should concern all Americans. The American people deserve to know that the public offices are not for sale, and that the federal government is not being used to cover up the actions of a politically associated family. Now, I would encourage the president and his team to fully cooperate with this investigation in the interests of transparency. We are committed to getting the answers for the American public.
So there we have it. That's Kevin McCarthy. And look, like I said, this is nothing more than a first step. It opens up the powers of the House in diving further into investigations, and it provides more leverage against these legal deterrents like executive privilege. Republican investigators have more tools now to investigate Joe Biden's shady business dealings and the Biden family, the Biden crime family. They'll just have more tools now that they're opening up an impeachment inquiry. I'll wait to get excited when they start using those tools. And I'm not going to get my hopes up. I'm not going to get my hopes up. Don't do it, Kat. Don't do it. And of course, we know that it's going to die in the House. He likely will not be impeached in the Senate. So All right, we're going to be back. Let's talk about San Francisco next. They hired a tourism official to try to encourage travelers to visit San Francisco. Well, we've done that here in the state of Illinois already. Progressives, they're wreaking havoc in San Francisco, and these locals there are forced to battle rampant crime, homelessness, this open drug scene, and now we are giving money to an individual to try to encourage people to come to San Francisco. We've already done that in Illinois too, because we've got a mass exodus going on, and they're trying to figure out how to get people to the state of Illinois. That's next. St. Louis, there's a clinic and they're ditching transgender care for minors over this law, exposing doctors to lawsuits. So now there's going to be lawsuits against doctors who, mutilate children, and they could be exposed to some lawsuits. So they're stopping the St. Louis clinic, transgender care for minors. Good, good. Some really good news this morning. Then we also have this Pornhub employee spilling the beans about how the company supports rape and child porn. So I'm going to be talking with the undercover reporter. There's this viral video going out, and she was sitting down with this executive of Pornhub, and she found out that they know, and they support and they monetize content that has a rape of children, rape of trafficking victims. There's human trafficking victims on Pornhub, and they do nothing to verify or get the consent of those individuals who are featured in those videos. And they use loopholes in the law in order to monetize off those videos. It's truly disturbing and disgusting. We're going to talk a lot about that in the 8 o'clock hour. I'm going to talk about it in the 7 o'clock hour here as well. But first, let's talk about San Francisco, because San Francisco, they did something that Illinois has already done. They hired a tourism official. So we have a campaign here in the state of Illinois. It's like some sort of tourist campaign, and we dedicated millions of dollars to it to try to get people to come to the state of Illinois, because we have a mass exodus going on. And the way we try to market individuals to come and to visit or to come live in Illinois, get this, they have this woman, she plays on Glee. I forget, she's an Illinois State University grad. I don't really know her name, and I don't care, frankly, because she's really not even in anything other than Glee, I think. She's in like a few movies. And they have her singing into a corn dog and telling people, or singing Illinois, Illinois. Like, I'm not kidding you. That's what we're spending money on. We're paying that woman to make advertisements, to be sponsored on social media, digital advertisements, billboards of this woman singing into a corn dog the word Illinois several times. And apparently that's how JB thinks we're going to get people to come here to the state of Illinois. Anyway, San Francisco doing the same thing. They hired Josh Beck. He's the new president and CEO of the San Francisco Travel Association. And this is their new hope in bringing travelers back to San Francisco. Beck told the San Francisco Chronicle that the biggest challenge in his role is going to be reversing the quote ongoing narrative that San Francisco is a monolithic experience when it's clearly not. There is rampant crime, homelessness, and an open drug scene going on in San Francisco. Anyone with half of a brain knows that San Francisco is one of the most dangerous cities in the country. How is this guy going to convince people that it's safe to travel to San Francisco when it's nearly the most dangerous city in the nation? How are you going to do that, dude? He claimed that the media reports about whether San Francisco is safe or not is not 100% accurate. So he's saying that, the media saying that San Francisco is not 100, it is a crime crap hole. It's not 100%. I agree. It's not 100% accurate, because the media doesn't, it's much worse than what the media is reporting. Okay? And the media only reports a fraction of the crime that happens there in San Francisco. Your chance of becoming a victim of either a violent crime or property crime is 1 in 18 in San Francisco. San Francisco has the highest rates of motor vehicle theft, with chance of getting your car stolen being 1 in 27. So car owners in San Francisco have literally started to open up their trunks to avoid having their windows smashed in by thieves. So opening up the trunk kind of gives the thief, hey, I don't have anything in my car, so please don't smash the windows in. And here's my open trunk uh, to so that way, you can get into the car, go in through the back seat, or so that way, that there's nothing inside of my car. Why would anybody want to visit a place like that? Really? Why would anybody want to visit a place where 473 people have died of overdoses, 385 of them due to fentanyl? Uh, but what do you expect when progressives run that city and they believe that every criminal is a victim and that they should not be arrested, but we can solve everything with a big hug? Okay. We just need to love the criminals because they were never loved before. They just need a hug. I don't care if criminal Tommy, who is smashing my car window, never got enough love from his mommy. Okay. Children watch the horror of people dying right in front of them in San Francisco on their way back to, on their way to school. Only progressives can take one of the richest cities in the world, subjected to the conditions that progressives subjected to. Okay. I mean, these are conditions that are not even seen in developing countries, third world countries. Okay. And only progressives can do that. Instead of turning people into victims of specific identities, well, they're black, they're gay, and they're a victim. No, let's try to rethink our policies and not be so permissive in our policies, okay? And call it what it is. It's degenerate behavior and it needs to be punished. San Francisco is the poster child for the progressive path to destruction, and nobody should ever visit San Francisco if you want to live. 309-451-9299. We'll be back on the other side. This is the Morning Buzz. All right, folks, we're back. If you're watching, go ahead and smash that like button. Did you guys hear the good news? There was a member of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, and he was arrested for masturbating in public. Haha. So that's some really good news. Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, earlier this year, they made headlines because the LA Dodgers decided to honor this group at their Pride event. And there was a lot of critics coming out about this group, not because of their homosexuality or their support for LGBTQism, but rather it's a group that makes fun of Christians and openly like blasphemies God. And it was deeply offensive to honor this group at the LA Dodger Stadium, but they did. So it's nice to see one of these guys have to pay $1,000 fine, and now he's registered as a sex offender. Wow. This is an explosive story. So, Pornhub, the employee spills the beans on how the company actually supports rape and child porn. So, I'm going to be talking with the undercover journalist. Her name is Arden Young. She's with an organization. It's called Sound Investigations, and they have exposed that Pornhub actually exploits legal loopholes that allow these rapists and traffickers to upload their illegal content. It's illegal. Okay. And they know that this is illegal and they admit to using loopholes in the law that continue to let them upload this kind of content to allow them to monetize off of it. So, this massive story exposing Pornhub today, Mike Farley, he's an executive top employee, and he revealed a loophole users exploit to upload this illegal content. So, they're using loopholes to uh, upload this content. You have to like consent if you want content uploaded to Pornhub, but apparently Pornhub really doesn't care all that much because they allow users to use this loophole. Did you know that there are more slaves now than possibly ever in human history? And arguably, this is the worst kind of slavery. It's sex slavery. Did you know? Watch Sound of Freedom. If you don't know what's going on with human trafficking, if you don't know the facts surrounding human trafficking, I watched it. It's hard to get through, but we are the number one consumers. This nation, the United States, we are the number one consumers of human trafficking. We are the number of sex trafficking, and it's because of sites like Pornhub. What I want to see happen, you're probably like, okay, Kat, we've exposed Pornhub. What now? What needs to happen? Criminal indictments and a nationwide shutdown of Pornhub. There needs to be a nationwide shutdown of not only Pornhub, because guess what's going to happen after we shut down Pornhub? OnlyFans and Twitter, or like these other social media sites that have these X-rated platforms like OnlyFans, those things are going to be on the rise. So Netflix already kind of did a documentary where they go after Pornhub and they say that they have this child sex graphic. It was actually, for me, it wasn't a bad documentary. Now, this documentary should not have been shown to children, which it was at Hayward schools. I watched the documentary a little bit, and it was gross. The sex workers were talking about how they hated Pornhub and how they preferred OnlyFans. So I do think we're going to see a rise in this OnlyFans type deal where we have men uploading content and making money, almost like freelance porn. That's what it is. It's freelance porn. And instead of Pornhub being in charge of it all, it's freelanced. But that's still an issue. Okay. So we've got to shut down Pornhub, but we've also got to shut down OnlyFans. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this story and play the clip for you next. Yeah, so here's the thing. If it's not Pornhub, it's going to be OnlyFans. Now, OnlyFans, as it exists right now, it's kind of like a freelance thing where people get onto OnlyFans and they can upload their content. And it's very much like, and this is what the documentary that Sarah, I think is her name. I forget her name, honestly. I really don't care about her all that much. She's that Hayward teacher who involuntarily resigned because she showed, or well, had this listed as class materials, this Pornhub. It's called Money Shot. It's a Pornhub documentary, and it was very inappropriate to show young children. However, I watched it as an adult, and it wasn't completely wrong in the fact that it points out the evils of Pornhub. So, I mean, this documentary practically should have been sponsored, and it might have been sponsored by OnlyFans. So we've got so-called sex workers, angry that they are uplifting Pornhub because they have things like human trafficking victims on there, children, and they're monetizing off of it. On OnlyFans, it's like, oh, workers, they're, empowered and they can do their own thing. However, what's going to wind up happening is the same exact things, because evil just it's a vicious cycle, okay? And OnlyFans, what people will wind up doing, and I could see this now, you start out as a sex worker. Okay, let's call them that. Prostitute really is what the accurate term is. You're a prostitute and you put photos of yourself, naked photos of yourself on OnlyFans to get money. Okay. Put naked photos up there, and then people start consuming your content. Then people start to see that people really are consuming your content. Somebody somewhere is going to say, hey, you're really popular on OnlyFans. Let me manage your account. Let me manage your account. Let me manage your account. So you see that in other forms of content creation. So, for example, politicians. Let's just do this. Politicians on social media, there's a lot of politicians that I talk to that have one handler. Okay. So there's one PR person who handles political consulting. Okay. So now what we're going to get into is sexual consulting or sex work consulting. And they're going to start managing these different accounts. And as you can probably jump to some conclusions here, these consultants are going to force these sex workers to do things that are outside of their comfort zone in order to get more clicks, more likes, therefore more money. Okay, because OnlyFans rewards you for the interaction with your content, much like other content creation. But pornography, because it's evil, it's an addiction, and It's like getting high. I don't know this from personal experience. I don't know anything about it. This is just what I've educated myself on. I don't know anybody who consumes porn at that level at all. But from what I've read and have understood is that porn is an addiction and you have to feed that addiction, and it's much like taking drugs. A little bit of dope doesn't get you high anymore. So now you have to increase it. This is why we start to see overdose deaths. And the way this industry works, you have to feed that addiction with more and more and more grosser, kinkier, crazier stuff. And you can see where OnlyFans will probably become much like Pornhub. It's an evil industry and it needs to be shut down at every single level. Let's start with Pornhub because we now have the guy who is all about it. Okay. He's like, he openly admits that, yes, we are doing illegal activity on Pornhub and we aren't stopping it because we're making money off of it. This is what he tells the undercover journalist. If you're watching right now, go ahead, smash that like button. It really helps me out, helps the algorithm. Share this out with your normie friends. That would help me out a lot. So like that button, hit the like button. I see you watching. Like it. So yeah, we're gonna talk to Arden Young. She is the undercover journalist who is featured in this video. He discloses a lot of things about Pornhub to this woman, and I want to ask her, some questions about like, hey, why investigate Pornhub to begin with? What was it that led to you to investigate Pornhub to begin with? She's with an investigation group. It's called Sound Investigations. So we're going to get it into all of that. Like I said, criminal indictments. There is a New York Times article that I suggest you read. It's called "The Children of Pornhub," exposed how these sites monetize off of child rape, and the site claimed it removed all of these all unverified videos from its platform, which does not say much as to how that prevents the illegal content from being uploaded. Okay, so um, even if you verify it, right? So even if you get your human trafficking victim to verify that that's her in the video, um, that's still not good, right? We can see that there's still human trafficking going on, even if the human trafficking victim says, yes, I will verify myself in this video. That doesn't really prevent any kind of illegal content from being uploaded, just the verification. But Pornhub isn't even verifying these things. They get around it through a loophole where they blur their faces in the video and they don't have to verify themselves if they blur their faces. So the video proves that there is no solution. They did not solve the problem, and that they had never intended to. So Mike Farley, he's this technical product manager at MindGeek, which is the parent company of Pornhub, and he detailed a loophole for traffickers and for rapists to exploit the system and upload this abhorrent content. We're gonna get to it now. Shut it down. Shut it all down. I want it to be shut down. Criminal indictments and a nationwide shutdown of Pornhub. That's what I want. We need to ban the site. We need to bankrupt MindGeek, the parent company of Pornhub. And I say death sentences to all the pedophiles. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. A bombshell report. A new undercover reporting journalist, Arden Young, who we will be talking to in the 8 o'clock hour, 8 o'clock Central Time. She's with Sound Investigations. She actually revealed that this Pornhub owner, it's called MindGeek. Used to be called MindGeek. I think it's called ALO now, ILO. And she revealed that this Pornhub company exploits a loophole to avoid age verification for pornographic videos that could involve children. When the videos are uploaded to the site with blurred out faces, Pornhub does not verify the ages of those featured in the video. So if the video has blurred out faces and these people upload that video, uh, they're not verifying the ages of the people who have the blurred faces. And therefore, that allows child pornography to be uploaded without any kind of punishment. Wow. So Mike Farley caught on tape here, folks. Caught on tape. Now, he's the technical product manager of MindGeek, or well, previously known as MindGeek. It's called AYLO now, AYLO, and that's the parent company of Pornhub. And he admitted undercover that execs at the porn company are very aware of this practice, that people are uploading these videos with blurred faces and they are not verifying the ages of those people in those videos. They're very aware of that practice and that human traffickers and child rapists are making a lot of money exploiting it. So he admits this on tape. So that leads me to say we need to shut all of this down. We need to start rolling out the criminal indictments. We need to start uh, shutting down the site. And it shouldn't end there. And I'm going to get to that here in just a second. But first, I do want to play for you Mike Farley. Here he is, the executive, admitting all of this on tape to an undercover reporter that the Morning Buzz, Kat Peterson, is going to be interviewing here in about an hour. Here we go.
Who exploits the loophole?
Everybody. Everyone. You make a lot of money.
Do rapists use it or?
Of course. We've brought it up to the CPO, we brought it up to the CLO, and they're both telling us it's all good. And the CPO is especially telling us, like, f off, it's all good. Like, stop.
So they know the
like,
risk.
shut up. No, it's all good. I'm not going to get caught. It's fine.
But what if, like, the government was to find out about this loophole? What would they do?
I don't know. They're not going to do shit. They'll do nothing. They're dumb. They don't know. You, like, work for the government or something?
Who exploits the loophole?
Everybody.
There you have it.
Everybody.
That's the audio. He says that the government won't do anything if they're caught uplifting, supporting, and monetizing off of these rapists and child traffickers uploading this kind of content. It's really quite sad, folks. So the illegal content goes way farther than just somebody not wanting their sex tape posted, okay, which is bad enough. But it's worse than that because it's child pornography, it's human trafficking, it's rape, it's more. The New York Times article, The Children of Pornhub. Now, I actually watched this Hayward teacher. Remember, she involuntarily resigned because she had, amidst her class materials, this movie. It's called Money Shot, and it's a documentary about Pornhub and how they exploit this loophole, how child traffickers and how human traffickers exploit this loophole where they can blur out the faces of people and not have to do age verification. Okay, so that's what the documentary was about. It was wildly inappropriate for children to watch because there was nudity in it. There were scenes that were disgusting, quite frankly. Okay, I watched it, and once you got past all of the nudity and the pornography, there was actually a message in there about how Pornhub is like big porn. And it was almost like an ad, like the documentary on Netflix. If you're an adult, go watch it. I suggest you watch it so that way you know what was shown in a public school in Hayworth, Illinois, and what led to Sarah being fired. Well, involuntarily resigning. Okay. So she showed this, of course, or made it available to teenagers. I watched it a little bit to just try to understand why she would have shown this to teenagers. There was no reason for her to show it to teenagers. However, I will say that the documentary did expose Pornhub as big evil porn, and what they do, it's all about money. And it was almost like an advertisement for OnlyFans. Okay, so the documentary says that OnlyFans, it empowers sex workers because they take their own sex work in their own hands, and they're independently contracted and they get to decide, and it's all consensual. Okay, but here's the problem with that. OnlyFans, what will wind up happening, because porn is an addiction, and from what I've read, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. It's much like dope, where a little bit of heroin doesn't get you high anymore. You have to increase the doses of heroin to get you high, and that's what leads to a lot of overdose deaths. Okay, so pornography, it's the same. It's addiction. It's very evil. What will wind up happening with OnlyFans? So, say Pornhub, say the right thing happens and Pornhub gets shut down, and there's criminal indictments, and there's a nationwide shutdown of Pornhub, which would be awesome. I would love to see that happen. Um, OnlyFans will begin to rise. More people are going to be using OnlyFans, which, if it's consenting adults, they're putting out that imagery. It's wrong. It's super, super wrong. Okay. But here's what will happen. You're going to get sex consultants. You see this in politicians all of the time. So, in politicians, right, they've got different mediums. They've got Facebook account, Twitter's account, and things like that. We have a communications team. Usually it's only one person who's in charge of about 4 or 5 politicians, and they have what's called a political consulting firm, and they manage the accounts of 4 or 5 politicians. What's going to wind up happening is there's going to be an industry that begins to flourish. It's going to be this sex consulting industry, and these sex consultants are going to be telling their clients, who they're managing their OnlyFans accounts for, that you have to up it up. Or you have to up the content. You have to up the kinkiness in order to get more clicks, more money, because that's what it is. It's all about money. And when there's money involved, it's just always going to be, it's going to turn out bad because you're exploiting people sexually for money, and it's evil and it's wrong. And these people are prostitutes. There's a reason why prostitution should be illegal and should be prosecuted to the max. We should be prosecuting prostitution, not legalizing it. And really, what OnlyFans does, it legalizes it. Pornhub legalizes it. So anyway, this New York Times article, it's called "Children of Pornhub." It exposed how the site monetizes off of child rape. The site claimed to remove all unverified videos from its platforms, uh, which doesn't say really much how that prevents the illegal content from being uploaded. Just because you have somebody verify that, yes, that's me in the video and I am 18 years old. Just because you have somebody verify that they're in the video doesn't stop illegal content from being uploaded, because human trafficking victims will consent and will say, yes, that's me in the video, because they're being trafficked. They have no other option. Okay, so that doesn't really prevent the video from being the illegal content from being uploaded either. The video proves that Pornhub never really solved the problem. This video I just played for you of Mike Farley. He's the technical product manager of MindGeek, the parent company of Pornhub, and he detailed out a loophole for traffickers and rapists to exploit the system to upload this abhorrent content. So they get around the verification system, the verifying, the verifying wall, right? Because they can blur out videos. Basically, users verify themselves by uploading IDs, their government IDs, driver's licenses, things like that. Then they upload, porn that does not show the face, and claim that they are the ones in the video, because the faces are blurred. So the faces will be blurred, and what they do, they verify it, and they can't cross reference because the faces are blurred. So they get around the verification um, criteria for that Pornhub makes you go do. So when Young asked Farley, the executive, if he thought any slips through the crack when people upload content, he confidently responded, he says, yes, 100%, of course. And then he went on, how are you going to tell me who's in that video of the girl not showing her face? There's no, like, if there's a video of a girl not showing her face and it's blurred out, you can't verify that. So Farley said that the loophole is exploited by just about everybody, including rapists. So I played the video for you. It's just wild. He says this to Arden. Okay. He says, for example, I could sign up tomorrow, submit my ID, but I'm putting all my real identification. I'm putting in all my real identification, my bank account, and everything. And I just rip content from other people where it's like, oh, this guy's body could be mine based on my face. I don't know, something like that. That's what he says. And I'm just quoting him here. This guy, okay, whatever. Uh, he looks kind of similar. I could just rip those videos, upload them up as my own, And people who view my video will probably like the video, and then you monetize off of that, and that's close enough. And I'm gonna make thousands of dollars. Okay, so the verification system is flawed. So this is a big story. We're going to be talking about it in the 8 o'clock hour with Arden Young, who is that undercover journalist. I've got so many questions for her. I'm excited. Now there is a transgender clinic in St. Louis. I want to get to this story, which will begrudgingly no longer prescribe gender hormones to minors, thanks to a new state law, Missouri, that exposes doctors to lawsuits if they provide such treatments. So they're not going to be given hormones, they're not going to be mutilating children. This is Washington University joined University of Missouri Health as the latest provider to announce it is canceling their pre-existing prescriptions for puberty blockers or hormone replacement therapy. So there's a couple of places in Missouri where they have jumped on the bandwagon and they no longer are going to be providing cross-sex hormones, hormone replacement, puberty blockers, things like that. We're going to get into that story here on The Buzz. You can text in at 309-451-9299. Eric Adams, I guess his name is Black Trump now. Yes, MSNBC is calling Eric Adams, the New York mayor, New York City mayor, Black Trump. What? That's next. Good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in, Mark. I love this. I think it's a spiritual battle. The only way to fight it is on your knees and then the word, using the word of God, because the Bible says the renewing of our minds or something like that. Yes. So that's the only way we're really going to fight human trafficking and child pornography. It will always exist. You're never going to eradicate human trafficking. Okay. I'm a realist here. There's always going to be evil afoot. However, it shouldn't be this big of a problem. And there definitely shouldn't be companies supporting it and monetizing off of it. Okay. And the only way we truly fight this, because there is going to wind up being these sex consultants for OnlyFans. And then the problem just gets worse. Okay. Where these women eventually find themselves into a human trafficking situation because they have to meet quotas, they have to meet the dollar, they have to meet certain numbers in order to stay a sex worker. And what kind of life is that? Right. So the only way we're really going to fight this is a spiritual battle. I say, yes, let's shut down Pornhub, but I'll tell you what happens next, because we can't just stop at shutting down Pornhub. That would be a major win. I think there needs to be criminal indictments. I think that that needs to be shut down. However, I think that there is this rise already in things like OnlyFans, and this will only exacerbate people's talking points about how OnlyFans is so great. Um, leftists even, right? They think that big porn is evil. Leftists believe that Pornhub is evil and it's wrong. Uh, but they take the opposite approach. We think it's evil and wrong, and we think it should be stopped, and nobody should be a prostitute. Leftists believe that people should be prostitutes and they shouldn't have to work for a company. So what you're going to wind up having are these women who get so big on OnlyFans, or these porn stars that get so big on OnlyFans that they have to be managed by a sex consultant. And it'll be all like legalized, and people will be like, yeah, I mean, I have a sex consultant and he tells me what to do in my videos. That is not any different from what Pornhub is doing. That's not any different from a pimp and a prostitute out on the street. It's just the only difference is that it's digital, and we need to stop it all. And the way we do that is by criminalizing prostitution and making money off of sex acts, okay, and rewarding people for this sort of behavior. And Mark, I've actually got a book. It's called Well Versed, and I've been reading it. I'm in a Bible study, and we need to be equipped with biblical understanding in order to uh, really take the country back, take the nation back from this evil spirit that I truly believe is here. Um, and we need to encourage our lawmakers to not be separate of the church. And we need our lawmakers to be encouraged by God. And the only way that they make good legislation surrounding these issues is if they've got God. So we need godly leaders. If you guys are watching, go ahead and smash that like button. We are going to be getting into the St. Louis Clinic here on the Buzz. And yeah, Mark, I really do think it's a spiritual battle, and that's the only way we truly fight this. Yes, we can criminally indict these people. Yes, we can continue to shut down these porn sites. However, what really needs to happen is everybody needs to fall to their knees. Those politicians in the House and in the Senate, they need to fall to their knees and they need to be saved, really. And once they are saved, then I think we'll start to see things get better. I know that human trafficking will always exist. However, it wouldn't exist as much if it wouldn't exist in the way it does now today, um, if we had godly leaders. So we'll talk about that. Plus, I do want to tell you a little bit about um, this New Mexico. I talked about this in the 6 o'clock hour. The New Mexico governor, this 30-day ban. This federal judge gave her the big old finger and said, "Nah, you're not doing this." And this governor is kind of big mad, and she says, "Well, that's unfortunate that everybody opposed my decision for this 30-day ban. This was a 30-day ban on open and concealed carrying of guns in a couple of counties." And yeah, so we're going to talk about that story here on the Buzz in just a bit. Uh, a tweet from the governor of New Mexico just a few days, like at the beginning of this week. She tried to issue this 30-day, it was like a 30-day ban on open carry, on concealed carry of guns in a couple of counties in New Mexico. And she says gun violence is killing between 2 and 3 children every month in New Mexico. Every single one of these deaths, they have to be stopped. So, first things first, I told you about the statistics surrounding children's deaths. So, first, number one, abortion is the number one killer of children. Okay. Every conservative, whenever a leftist tries to tell you that guns killed kids so much, or guns are the number one killer of children, you need to shut that down and you need to say, nope, that's not true. Abortion is the number one killer of children. And then tell them this: the statistics that they're citing include 18 and 19-year-olds. Those are adults. And they also include 15, 16, and 17. And arguably, those they're not children according to regular statistics. Usually it's from 0 to 12. And if you don't believe me, just look at the kids menu. It says that you can't order off the kids menu at the age of 12. Okay, so they're teenagers. They're called teenagers. They're still kids, but they're teenagers. We're talking about children. So children, we can't get lost in the redefining of the left, the redefining terminology of the left, because that's what they do. They change language. So 0 to 12. And when you take out gang violence, when you take out black gang violence that goes on between 15 and 19-year-olds, no, come on, that's not, I'm not being racist. That's just factual. There's so much gang violence that goes on in cities like Chicago between 15 to 19-year-olds, and they're all young black children. And then if you take out the suicide, because they include suicide statistics in there, and children who use guns to commit suicide. What they've done is they've tried to manipulate the statistics. They've included 18 and 19-year-olds in that children's statistic, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then they're also including suicides. They're including gang violence. If you take all that gang violence out, it's not even close. It's drowning, car accidents, suicides. Okay, or drowning in car accidents in children. So That's what you need to say to leftists. So now that we've established that and we've gotten the statistic right, because they'll sit there and they'll say that guns are the number one killer of children. That's not true. She says here, after this U.S. judge, a district judge, issued a temporary restraining on her order on her 30-day ban of concealed carry and open carry. He issued this temporary restraining order after several lawsuits were filed against the governor by these pro-activist or pro-gun activist groups who argued that the ban infringed on their constitutional rights, which it did. Now, unfortunately, our Illinois Supreme Court upheld Governor J.B. Pritzker's unconstitutional gun ban, where he tries to did ban higher capacity magazines where you can't have rounds over 16. It shouldn't shock you that the Illinois Supreme Court upheld that. If you look at the breakdown of the campaign donations that Governor J.B. Pritzker gave to a couple of Supreme Court justices, shouldn't shock you that that happened. That is also unconstitutional, much like this 30-day ban, which I don't even understand why she wanted to do a 30-day ban. Like, do you not have the cojones to do a ban on open carry and concealed carry just in general? Like, why just 30 days? And I thought it was really funny because her attorney general, many officials in her state, including the attorney general, they said that they were not going to enforce that ban, the 30-day ban. They said, "Are you crazy, lady?" Unfortunately, here in the state of Illinois, we've got Kwame Raoul, who is a little puppy dog and follows JB around everywhere he goes. And he works for JB. He doesn't work for the people, the attorney general. And he is enforcing that gun ban, and he's trying to get everybody to enforce that gun ban at a local level. And I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. Sheriffs across, 102 counties, I think it was, in the state of Illinois. All of them, practically all of them, except 2 counties in the state of Illinois, said that they were against this gun ban, I think. So yeah, people are not for this. Do want to get to this story, but I'm going to take a quick break. When I take the break, I'm going to do my homework on this St. Louis clinic. So the St. Louis clinic ditches this transgender care for minors stuff. And the reason why they're doing this, and they're doing it begrudgingly. I'm sure this clinic would love to prescribe puberty blockers and hormone replacement therapy, and they would love to continue to do that. Washington University is joining the University of Missouri Health as the latest provider to announce that they're canceling their pre-existing prescriptions for puberty blockers and hormone replacements. So there's this new state law in Missouri that is actually going to expose doctors to lawsuits if they were to provide such treatments to minors. A great law. I love the Missouri state law. JB said it was disgusting, and I'm quoting him there. But we're going to talk about the law. We're going to talk about why the hospital or why the clinic is doing this begrudgingly and what other hospitals are doing this in Missouri. All right. I'll be back on the other side. This is the Morning Buzz. You can always be a part of the show by seeing me on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Rumble. You can also text in at 309-451-9299. Good morning. Hi, folks. If you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button and comment. I agree with everything you're saying. Our pastor says that we're calling good evil and evil good, and that the church has allowed it. But we need to push back against evil and call it what it is. Yes. So that's the thing. That's really disturbing about PORNHUB closing down is that I think that if PORNHUB closes down, I think what is going to wind up happening is OnlyFans is going to wind up rising, and there's going to be this push to kind of normalize, I guess, because it's on social media, sex workers or so-called sex workers, we're going to call them what they are, prostitution. We're going to try to normalize prostitution via OnlyFans. And Pornhub is kind of in the way of that because people view Pornhub as big porn. Okay, so these sex workers can't really do what they want. They want autonomy, or they want, independence from the the big porn industry. Okay, so they want to be independently contracted sex workers, essentially, and they want to make their own money, and they don't want to give Pornhub a cut. Okay, these people are evil. All of it's evil. Okay, and that is not a lesser evil. It's all the same evil. Okay, OnlyFans is not a lesser evil than Pornhub. It's both extremely evil. And we need to recognize that when Pornhub shuts down, there's going to be a rise in OnlyFans, and we are going to see the same problem. We might not see it in year 1, 2, or 3 of OnlyFans being the popular choice, okay? But in year 4 or 5, what's going to wind up happening are these sex consultants where you start to see people take clients on, and then it's essentially the same thing because people try to make money, and people want to make the most money, but they don't want to do any kind of work, okay? That's just what humans are. Uh, we're evil things, little sinners, and that's what people will wind up doing. There's going to be a rise in sex consulting where they take all of these different accounts on OnlyFans, and he's got about 5 girls that he manages, and he says, "Well, Jessica, who's on OnlyFans, your numbers are nowhere near Ashley's, and I need you to do some kinkier stuff. I want you to act like a little girl in this video." Okay, that's what he's going to wind up doing it because that's going to get more clicks, more like whatever. These people are sick, um, and then they're going to up the ante. Jessica, I want you to be in a porno with this little girl. She's 16. Well, now that's illegal. Okay, so it's going to wind up happening on OnlyFans as well. That's what these people don't freaking understand. They're going to sit there and they're going to be like, well, we need to give sex workers their own autonomy. We need to give them the ability to make their own money and to be branched away from big porn. What you don't understand is that this is an evil and it won't stop until we cut it off. We cut it off completely and we criminalize putting videos out there of yourself, or we criminalize pornography. Okay, really, that's what I'm going to say. And I know that's very controversial, and I know you might not agree with me on that, but we need to criminalize pornography because it's an evil and it breeds more evil. Okay, they're in the business of making money, and porn is an addiction. And the only way people continue to consume pornography is if you up the ante. The only way people continue to use drugs is if you up the ante, because the way drugs and the way any addiction works, a little bit, you have to get more and more and more and more of it. Okay, and it has to get weirder, it has to get kinkier. Otherwise, it's not going to have the same effects. You have to have more heroin than what you started out with to get high. Okay, that's what goes on. Um, and we have to recognize that. We have to recognize that pornography is an addiction and we need to criminalize it. We also need to criminalize drugs, okay? And throw people in jail who use drugs. It's very simple. And people, the bending, that it's really a spiritual thing. The bending of people where they're like, well, let live and no, live and let live. No, 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 no. We're not about that life. Okay. Shut up. We need to live by what God says. There is a truth out there and it's the word of God. Okay. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just don't watch the show if you don't want to listen, but it just pisses me off. Mark, he commented here on the stream. You guys can see me live in studio, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Mark, he says, I think that this is a spiritual battle. The only way we fight it is on our knees and then with the word of God. the Bible says something about renewing of our minds. There needs to be a renewing of our minds. Exactly. So, yes, I am calling for the criminal indictments to be rolled out against Pornhub, against these Pornhub executives. I'm also calling for the total shutdown of Pornhub nationwide. However, I do think that we need to take a look at OnlyFans as well and other pornography sites, and we should shut those down as well because they might not be a problem right now. You might think that they're not a problem right now, but because we're talking about pornography here, because we're talking about an evil, this is truly an evil and it's an addiction. It's going to breed things like Pornhub and things that like Pornhub do currently. Okay, so there is this massive push by the left to make OnlyFans mainstream and to make that the way we consume our pornography. And the reason why that is because more people can make money off of that. So right now, Pornhub is exclusive. You have to be a Pornhub executive and you have to work for Pornhub, and it's a company. So what OnlyFans is, it's basically independent contracted prostitution. So I'm going to call them prostitutes. They're not sex workers. They're trying to say that sex workers need to be independent. They need to break away from their company and they get to make their money themselves. Okay, fine, whatever, hunky dory. It's not really though, because here's what winds up happening. You have to stop evil where you see it. Okay. And if you allow OnlyFans to do this thing and you're like, oh, well, it's a lesser evil than Pornhub because, hey, at least it's not big porn and it's not this evil company that's exploiting children and human trafficking. And these people actually want to do sex work. And if they want to do it, live and let live. What's the problem with that? Shut up. You're wrong. What will wind up happening is you've got all of these so-called sex workers, these prostitutes who put these pictures out on them of themselves out on the internet for money. You've got Jessica, Ashley, and Brittany. Okay, Jessica, Ashley, and Brittany. They've got all of these pictures uploaded. Jessica, she's got the best pictures because she gets all of the interaction, the likes. People want to give her a lot of money. Brad over here, Brad says, "Whoa, look at the numbers. Look at what Jessica pulls in. I want to consult her. I'm going to approach her and I'm going to manipulate her into making me her manager." Then he sees that Ashley and Brittany have similar numbers. And then he goes to Ashley and Brittany and brings them on as a sex consultant. Okay, a sex work consultant. Yeah, I can already see that this is going to happen. It probably already does happen. And what Brad is going to wind up doing, because pornography is an addiction, and pornography, like heroin, you have to have more and more and more of it. It has to get weirder, it has to get kickier. And just like heroin, you wind up overdosing because the little bit doesn't get you high anymore, and then you have to have more of it to get you high. That is what pornography is. It's evil and it's an addiction. Addiction is the devil. Okay, so we have to stop it and we have to say pornography is wrong and we have to criminalize it. Period. Child pornography, adult pornography, it's wrong, it's evil, and you have to criminalize prostitution. We should criminalize prostitution. We shouldn't be shifting to this legalization of OnlyFans and making it independently contracted. And because Jessica does it herself, it's fine. No, it's not fine because what's going to wind up happening, you're going to have people like the Brads of the world. And the Brads of the world are going to try to make as much money as possible. And they're going to get Jessica to do things she doesn't want to do in order to get clicks. And then what's the difference between Brad and a pimp on the street who beats the living hell out of a prostitute because she doesn't get enough money from her John? Okay? There's no difference. The only difference is that we are saying it's okay because it's on some sort of digital platform. The only difference is that we say what we say is okay. And I know that's a lot to take in. The reason why I'm talking about that today is because there's a pornography executive or a Pornhub executive who was caught on tape. We are going to be talking with the undercover reporter. Her name is Arden Young. We're going to be talking with her in the 8 o'clock hour. So you can visit on the stream and see her live in studio or live with me on the video. She's going to be joining me on the stream on Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble in the 8 o'clock hour. Do want to shift gears. Let's talk about this story. in St. Louis. So Missouri, and we've got JB out there calling this new law disgusting. So it's actually a great law. If JB says it's a bad law, then it's a great law. So this transgender clinic in St. Louis, they will begrudgingly no longer prescribe gender hormones to minors thanks to a new state law that actually would expose doctors to lawsuits if they were to provide such treatments to minors. They would open themselves up to a lawsuit. So Washington University and University of Missouri Health are the latest here. The university or Washington University is the latest provider. Earlier in the week, I think it was University of Missouri Health, where they announced that they are canceling their pre-existing prescriptions for puberty blockers and hormone replacement therapy. So Missouri's new law puts a ban on putting kids on puberty blockers or cross-sex hormones or performing gender surgery on minors. So good on Missouri, although the law allows an exception for patients already on hormone treatments. So that's where the law doesn't go far enough, I think. So you can't put a new kid on it. Okay. If a kid is already on these puberty blockers or these hormone treatments, then you can't take them off. There's an exception. You don't have to take them off of it if they're already prescribed it. So the transgender clinic chose to stop offering hormone treatments to all patients because the ban exposes doctors to lawsuits. That's what the officials of the Washington University said. This clinic. You would think a sane society wouldn't need a common sense law to prevent doctors from abusing children like this. But unfortunately, we live in a time where doctors are providing care based on a patient's desires and not on their best interest. Okay. So, quote, this legal claim creates unsubstantiable liability for healthcare professionals and makes it untenable for us to continue to provide comprehensive transgender care for minor patients without subjecting the university and our providers to an unacceptable level of liability. So there's a lot of liability that will come to doctors via lawsuit. Like they're going to get sued if they give kids this gender care or all comprehensive transgender care. If they give kids uh, puberty blockers, and which are irreversible, by the way, and then mutilation, genital mutilation. So the former case manager, Jamie Reed, came forward with allegations that the clinic had hastily put children on psychiatric issues on hormone treatments. So this was a former case manager of this clinic, and she alleged that the clinic did not make sure people were aware of the side effects. Okay. The New York Times reported that emergency staff at the hospital started seeing a spike in trans identifying children at the same time that they were showing up every day in the psychiatric crisis. So kids show up, they've got a psychiatric crisis going on. Now they're identifying as transgender because they're having this psychiatric crisis. And we're not telling the kids, hey, these are the side effects that come with the puberty blockers. These are the side effects that come with the sex changes, with the genital mutilation. The rapid expansion of services that the clinic subsequently performed after it was caught hastily prescribing hormone treatments to kids should raise alarm. It seems the clinic was profiting greatly from transgender patients. That's what it's really all about. They're not telling the kids the consequences. They're not telling because they're profiting. It's no wonder they withheld critical information in regards to the side effects. Okay, they're not telling the kids about the side effects because they're making money. Sounds like they profited big by taking advantage of some of the most vulnerable people in society. You take a kid who comes in because they're seeking psychiatric help, and then all of a sudden they say, well, do you feel like a girl? Do you feel like a boy? And then they're like, well, I don't know. Well, here is what we would provide you. These are puberty blockers. They're going to make you feel better. And they're not going to tell you the side effects of those puberty blockers. These people are Frankenstein doctors who gaslight you. This sort of gender therapy is harmful, and it's crazy that doctors pretend that these are so-called treatments for children. They're not treatments for children. It's it's Frankenstein. It's experimenting on kids. You're experimenting on kids. MSNBC. There's this writer. I'm gonna get to this here. He blasts the New York City mayor, Eric Adams, for being a black Trump. That's what he called him. So Eric Adams, he blasts this speech that Eric Adams gave, this MSNBC writer, about the migrant crisis being taken or taking the city by storm. And this MSNBC writer calls it bigoted thinking inspired by the right. So he's calling Eric Adams a black Trump now. Uh, I'm quoting him here, and he's a writer for MSNBC. I think it's like the Readout blog, so it's a digital extension of Joy Reid's primetime show that this guy writes for. His name is Jahan Jones. So here's the quote here. He says, but there's a reason Eric Adams' rant is being applauded by conservatives. Maybe it's because conservatives feel they've made him come around to their bigoted thinking. So, oh gosh. Jones is basically saying that Adams can't think for himself and that conservatives forced him to think this way, and that conservatives are now applauding Eric Adams, which I've never applauded Eric Adams. I've pointed out how hypocritical he's been. You know, he's the one who says that New York City was a sanctuary city just last week. And then all of a sudden he flips the script and he says that the migrants flooding into the city will, quote, this is what Adam said, will destroy New York City. So this is what prompted the MSNBC writer Jones to compare Eric Adams to Donald Trump, is because he said that the city will be destroyed by these illegal immigrants. Jones blasted Adams for, quote, parroting right-wing talking points and espousing conservative politics on immigration. My God, this guy, like, you are so pathetic. This guy on MSNBC, this writer, is wild. Then he says this. He goes, that's what led some of his critics to label him as Black Trump. Wow. And he lived up to the moniker Thursday with an anti-immigration or anti-immigrant diatribe that sounded as if it was ripped from the former president's social media feed. This is what Jones says. This is what the MSNBC writer says. Wow. Adams has said the migrant influx could cost $12 billion in the next 3 years, and that they've been forced to make budget cuts, including cutting police overtime in half. So that way the department can battle like they can't even battle the increased crime, because what they've done is they've cut the overtime hours in half. So they're not giving money to the officers who are uh, doing overtime. So they're not doing overtime. And this is what's leading to the increased crime, obviously. Liberals ignore the real issues at hand and they resort to ad hominem attacks. That's what they do. And racial slurs. Black Trump, are you serious right now? That is a racial slur and it's wrong. And this MSNBC writer is calling him Black Trump. Leftists are not inclusive. They're not tolerant. They're not for diversity. They are racists. And this is clear because this was a racial slur. Black Trump, they're calling Eric Adams is black and they're calling him Black Trump. That is racist. Oh gosh, I'm going to be back. I got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to continue a little bit with this story, not too much longer, the Eric Adams story, but then I want to move on. It'll be 8 o'clock probably by then, and we'll be able to talk with Arden Young, who was the undercover reporter with this Pornhub story where the Pornhub executive spilled the beans on how the company supports rape and child porn. So not only supports it, but monetizes off of it. We are going to be back. Also, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. There was a member arrested for masturbating in public. You might remember what the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence are famous for. I'm going to remind you on the other side. All right, folks, we will be back in just a little bit talking about Eric Adams and this story about the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence that I wanted to get to this morning. So, there's been a member arrested for masturbating in public. Ugh, that's embarrassing. He's 53 years old and he was arrested in California. So, he was at a beachside park and they received the police multiple reports of him exposing himself in the driver's seat while parked in a parked vehicle. So, numerous witnesses, Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, you might remember that as the group that was featured by the LA Dodgers. They honored this group at a pride event, and this group is, well, let's just say blasphemous, and they make fun of Christianity and they have their members dress in like as nuns and as religious figures, and then they strip on the cross. They use the cross as a strip pole. So that obviously offended a lot of people. And the LA Dodgers said, well, screw you. We don't care. We're going to honor them at the Pride Night event. And that is how you might remember the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. We're going to get into it here in just a bit. Yikes. He was masturbating and then he got caught. This is a guy from the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. Now, Sam Britton, the guy who was stealing ladies' luggage, he actually was a part of this group as well. But this is a group of predominantly gay men who openly mock Catholics and Christians. And this guy was arrested this past month here for indecent exposure. Now, the Daily Wire's got this story. He masturbated in public for an hour or was out there for an hour, I guess. Gosh, this is a sad, sad little man. 53 years old. Come on. Like, your life is so sad. He's out there at this park. It's beachside. Now, you're like, wait a second, Kat. I don't know what the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence is. Well, they made headlines earlier this year because the LA Dodgers decided to honor the group at a pride event. And the group, what they do, they dress up as nuns and religious figures like Jesus, and they strip on a strip pole, but the strip pole is the cross. So that's part of their routine. And it's just so gross. And people have said that they are a perverted hate group. That's these critics called them a perverted hate group. And I am one of those critics. I would call them a perverted hate group. It's very offensive. And they had a lot of backlash for being honored at the LA Dodger Stadium. But the members of the media have called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, quote, and I'm quoting them here, dedication to community service. That's what they've celebrated the group for their dedication to community service. Well, I don't know about Clinton here. He's 53 years old, and I don't know what he was dedicating to society or how he was contributing to society, because what he did was, well, he's charged with indecent exposure, which is a misdemeanor offense, but it could result in some prison time, which would be awesome, and $1,000 fine. And get this, he's going to be a registered sex offender now. Woohoo! So some good news this morning. Also, I did want to chat about San Francisco, or San Francisco. We've got San Francisco out there, and they have hired a travel official who is trying to encourage San Francisco, or encourage people to visit San Francisco. You couldn't pay me enough money to go to San Francisco. I choose life. I want life. The progressives there, they're wreaking havoc on the locals, and they're forcing these locals to deal with rampant crime. I mean, it's gotten so bad there to where people are opening up their trunks so that way people don't smash their windows in. So I guess opening up your trunk kind of indicates to a criminal, hey, don't rob me. I don't have anything. My trunk is open. Or, hey, my trunk is open. You can get into the back of my car. Some trunks do that. If you want to rob me, try to go ahead. So people are opening up their trunks. And, the thing about that, too, is that the cops, when they were questioned about this in San Francisco, they were like, why are people opening up these trunks? And the cops said, look, that isn't surprising. It's unsurprising that people are doing that because crime is so bad. You have a 1 in 18 chance in San Francisco of becoming a victim of a crime, like a violent crime. 1 in 18. So, yeah, I don't know what this travel guy is going to be able to do to convince people to travel to San Francisco when it's nearly the most dangerous city in the nation, but we're gonna we're Josh Beck. I mean, I wish all of the luck to you. All right, we've got to take a break. We're gonna come back. Arden Young, the undercover journalist who exposed Pornhub, this executive, joins me next. Okay, joining me on the stream, the undercover journalist from Sound Investigations, Arden Young. Arden, I want to test our audio here. We're only live. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me okay? Test, test. You hear me all right? Testing.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Oh, no, that's okay. Can you hear me? Testing, testing. I can hear you. Yeah, hold on one sec.
I don't know why I'm not hearing you. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Hold on.
I have my volume up.
Testing, testing. Let's see. Let's see. Can you hear me now? Hear me now?
No, not yet. I can't hear you.
Let's see.
Should I try logging in and out?
Yeah, try. Testing 1, 2. Can you hear me?
No,
that's okay.
I'm so
That's
sorry.
That's all right. We'll do phone call. That sounds good? Okay. All right, folks, we're going to be back in just a little bit. Arden is going to be joining us on the line. You guys are going to want to find her on social media, on Twitter, and give her a follow. She's with Sound Investigations, and she's a journalist. A top Pornhub employee spills on how the company supports rape and child porn. So here we have this massive story, and it's exposing Pornhub today. Mike Farley, he's the executive top employee, and he revealed that there's this loophole where users exploit this, and they exploit this loophole, and they can upload illegal content. So, did you know that there are more slaves than possibly ever in human history? Arguably, it's the worst kind of slavery, sex slavery. And this undercover journalist from Sound Investigations, Arden Young, has exposed how Pornhub actually exploits these legal loopholes, and it allows rapists and traffickers to upload that illegal content. So, joining me on the line, Arden Young, the undercover journalist from Sound Investigations. So go look up Sound Investigations, support them, and go give Arden Young a follow on X, formerly known as Twitter. Arden, can you hear me all right?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on.
Of course, of course. And first, I just want to ask you, we've been playing the clip here all morning. Can you explain this loophole to me and what he's actually talking about? So it's the blurred images that people upload of people's face.
So Mike Farley is a product manager at Pornhub. He's been there for a very, very long time. He even claims to be the 7th employee ever hired at Pornhub over 10 years ago. And he explains to me a loophole in the upload process where verified uploaders can upload videos of people without showing their faces. So while faces can be blurred, but faces can also just be cut off in the video, and video will show a body only, which is very common. And Pornhub does not verify that these videos contain consenting adults. So these videos are monetized with Pornhub just playing plausible deniability on whether the videos actually do contain consenting adults, when in reality, someone in the video could be underage, they could be non-consenting, it could be revenge porn, anything of that nature. And Pornhub knows about it, but they're not doing anything about it because it would hurt their bottom line, as Mike explains.
So why investigate Pornhub? Why would Sound Investigations go through this trouble to go after Pornhub?
That's a great question. There was a New York Times article published in 2020 by Nicholas Kristof, and it was titled "The Children of Pornhub." And it really captivated my attention. It turned me on to like a whole new world of exploitation that I just hadn't thought about before. It's always been an issue close to my heart, and I've wanted to investigate it. But it was just the push I needed. And in the article, he featured some victims that had been exploited on video at very young ages. And these videos had been circulated on Pornhub, of course, without their permission. And when they had requested the videos to be taken down, Pornhub completely ignored them.
Mm. Well, and one thing that you bring up this Children of Pornhub 2020 New York Times article. I wanted to ask you about this documentary that I actually recently watched, and you won't believe why I watched it. It was actually because it was featured as some sort of class materials in this woman's the classroom for middle schoolers. So she was providing this documentary as a like assignment. So she gave the students the opportunity to, or the opportunity that she gave them this Pornhub documentary that's on Netflix. It's called Money Shot. Have you heard of it?
Yes, I watched that.
Yes. So the problem here is that what I wanted to get at today is I don't know, what would you like to see happen with Pornhub? Do you want to see it shut down nationwide? Do you want to see some sort of criminal indictments happen? What would you like to see happen?
I want the law enforced. So there's a U.S. Code 2257 that was adopted back in '88 that made age verification absolutely mandatory for every individual in pornographic content. And it is a criminal offense not to verify age for traditional porn companies, which I believe Pornhub would fall into that category. I want the Child Protection Act enforced. And what people don't realize sometimes is Pornhub's parent company, MindGeek, now rebranded to ALO, is an absolutely massive porn giant. They have a near monopoly on porn studios and websites here in North America. Even their Wikipedia page doesn't even scratch the surface of all the things they run, and many times secretly. So Pornhub is currently the most trafficked website in the entire world. It gets, I believe Mike at some point tells me how many unique visitors Pornhub receives every single day. But MindGeek as a company is bringing in huge profits. And when you are a huge corporation profiting off of videos of underage children being trafficked and abused, and adults as well being abused and trafficked, and who knows what else, they need to be held accountable. It's the law. So I'm hoping lawmakers on both sides of the aisle can get involved in launching a full investigation into Pornhub and their parent company, MindGeek.
Mm. And I agree with you 100%. I want the law enforced. Now, the only reason I'm going to bring this up is because your reporting, I mean, if they don't go after Pornhub, then we are in some deep trouble, because your reporting has exposed quite a lot. I mean, they not only support, but they're monetizing off of child porn and human trafficking victims. But do you think that there's going to be a rise now? So say Pornhub, I mean, if not shut down, experiences a drop in their ratings or a drop in their website visits. Do you think that a rise of things like OnlyFans, these independently contracted prostitutes, really, who use OnlyFans, is there going to be a rise there? And is there concern that OnlyFans might be the new porn site? Pornhub, it's been around for decades, right? And it's been around a long time, and it's very, like you said, it's everywhere. MindGeek is their parent company. Do you think this rise of OnlyFans is going to be problematic?
It very well might be, and there is no porn company that we won't investigate. So that could be something that we visit in the future.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing that I could see where it's like almost where they legalize some sort of sex work, and you start to get like these sex consultants, and you might get a sex consultant who has several people who have OnlyFans accounts, and they do advice, right? And we know where sex consulting could very easily well turn into a situation where he's essentially the pimp. And it turns into a nasty situation. So I fear in Pornhub, I have a fear in Pornhub leaving, but also I do want it to leave because obviously what they're doing. You mentioned that this has been on your mind for a long time, and that the 2020 New York Times article was kind of like a catalyst. It's what pushed you into it. I mean, do you have any exposure to child trafficking before that, or any kind of?
Well, thankfully, not directly. But sexual exploitation in general is an issue that I've always deeply cared about, just naturally. I come from a background of acting in TV and film, and although I was fortunate enough not to experience, sexual abuse as a child when I was growing up in the industry, people around me weren't always so fortunate, and I heard horrific stories. And that really inspired me to kind of get involved at some point behind the camera in an investigative sense to bring these matters to light and try to prevent things from happening in the future, hold these huge companies accountable. And I'm just so glad that 2020 New York Times article captured my attention enough to spur this investigation.
Right. And one thing in the video that I wanted to get to, if there are criminal indictments and things like that, the guy, he mentions that there's these recorded meetings that he has with his bosses. Um, were you able, as a journalist, well, obviously not, because you probably would have exposed the recordings of those meetings. Will we ever get to see those recorded? Do you think that's a possibility if they have some sort of criminal indictments against them? Or
I certainly hope so. That is a great question. We would love to get our hands on those recorded meetings. As Mike mentioned in the video, employees at his level and up are the ones that would be deposed in any legal situation. And hopefully, if and when that time comes, those recordings are required to be produced. And in that case, we would absolutely love to listen to them and see what was on them. Because
can you speculate what might be on them?
Well, Mike says in the video that when it was brought up, he was told to shut up and F off.
Oh, wow. Wow. So these bosses are telling him, Mike, you're bringing up an issue, then you need to turn the other direction, and you need to not look this way.
Exactly. Mike says in so many words that they're not going to spend more money fixing an issue that, if fixed, would cost them money.
Wow. Wow. And why do you think Mike told you all of this? I mean, you're a very attractive journalist, right? And maybe that's why he felt okay to, and a lot of these things, and I'm sure you've seen O'Keefe Media and the O'Keefe Media Group. It's similar to that, the sound investigations, and it's exciting. And I want you to talk about sound investigations too, but why do you think he disclosed all of this to you?
I think I was able to build trust with Mike, and I think Mike was just an open book naturally. It's just one of those situations where in the field you have some luck with a subject that's really, really open to speaking about the work they do. I didn't have to push. I didn't have to try too hard. I asked the questions I wanted to ask, and Mike answered, and it was kind of just one of those meant to be things.
Yeah. And well, these people, right? I would imagine a product manager for a company like MindGeek. This is a huge company. You're kind of, what's the word? Braggy, I guess, or bold, and you want to brag about yourself. And that's one thing that I see consistently in these videos where they're, it's like they're bragging about themselves. Now, one thing about sound investigations, I want you to tell me a bit about that and how we can learn more, how we can support you guys and what you guys do over there.
Absolutely. Thank you. So Sound Investigations is a brand new nonprofit formed specifically to investigate pornography and corruption within the pornography industry. It's just me and a friend who started it. It's been completely self-funded up until this point. And we hope to build a professional team in the future. So anyone who wishes to support us, they can go to soundinvestigations.com/donate. And we would love for you guys to keep up with us on Twitter. We're at SoundInvestig. No Asians because of the character limit on Twitter, unfortunately. But they can follow me on Twitter as well at Arden_Young_. And we'll be posting all sorts of updates. We have more tapes coming. Each tape is going to contain a new MindGeek, the parent company of Pornhub, employee. And each tape will focus on a slightly new but very relevant subject.
Yeah, so you do have a couple of other reports because now that you're out and you're probably no longer going to be in the field because your face is out there, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing is undercover journalists, they're undercover and then they've got the one story that is big a lot of the times. And yeah, so this is an incredible story. Thanks so much for joining me here on the Morning Buzz, Cities 92.9. Arden, you have a great rest of your day and thanks for all you do.
Thank you. I so appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, folks. That was Arden Young. Go find her on Twitter. That was an explosive interview. Thanks for tuning in. 309-451-9299. We're going to be back on the other side talking a little bit more about the Pornhub film the Pornhub video that went viral of this executive. But also, I do want to chat about this story about John Fetterman and the impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden. That's next. Not even Nancy Pelosi will say Kamala Harris should be on the ticket with Joe Biden. Democrats, they've got a likability problem. Good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Explosive interview this morning with Arden Young. She was the undercover journalist who exposed Pornhub. Pornhub. They spilled the beans here, folks, about how they allow uh, people to exploit a loophole and how they support rape and child porn. This company supports rape and child porn. They monetize off of it. It's disgusting. She exposed this Pornhub executive. His name's Mike Farley, and he's a top executive for the parent company called MindGeek. And she's an investigative reporter through Sound Investigations, and she exposed Pornhub. And she was on the radio with me talking about how um, they are investigating the porn industry. Sound Investigations was created to investigate the porn industry specifically. So we're going to get into more of those details in just a little bit. But first, I do want to talk about Nancy Pelosi because this was an amazing moment on TV. Democrats, they have a likability problem. It's so bad that the unlikable Nancy Pelosi found herself defending the less likable Joe Biden on CNN, where she avoided saying the even less likable Kamala Harris should be Biden's running mate in 2024. So they got a likability problem. If you're a political hack, it should be a simple answer to a question that literally gets asked to every presidential cycle. Should the president keep the vice president as their running mate? Okay, you're a political hack. You should be able to answer this simple question, yes or no. The answer should always be yes if you're a political hack. Instead, Nancy Pelosi could barely even muster up a Biden thinks so, and that Biden thinks that yes, Kamala Harris should run with him, and that's what matters before tossing the word salad. So let's take a listen here to Nancy Pelosi. She was asked the question, do you think, and she's, of course, sporting a Ukraine pin on her pantsuit. Let's take a listen to Nancy Pelosi on CNN with Anderson Cooper. Cooper.
Is Vice President Kamala Harris the best running mate for this president?
He thinks so, and that's what matters. And by the
Do you
way,
think so?
she's very politically astute. I don't think people give her enough credit. She's, of course, values-based, consistent with the president's values and the rest. And people don't understand, she's politically astute. Why would she be vice president if she were not? But when she was running for attorney general in California, she had 6% in the polls. 6% in the polls. And she politically astutely made her case about why she would be good, did her politics, and became attorney general. So people shouldn't underestimate what Kamala Harris brings to the table.
Do you think she is the best running mate, though?
She's the vice president of the United States. So when people say to me, well, why isn't she doing this or that? I said, because she's the vice president. That's the job description. You don't do that much. You're a source of strength, inspiration, intellectual resource, and the rest. I think she's represented our country very well at home and abroad.
Wow. CNN, she won't even say it on CNN, Nancy Pelosi. She won't even come out and say that Kamala Harris is a good running mate for Biden. Quote, her values are consistent with the president's values. Why would she be a vice president if she were not? Well, she's the vice president because Biden was told he needed to pick a black woman, and he chose the one who, during the 2008 primary, called him a racist that probably sexually assaulted his aide. Okay, so he chose Kamala Harris. And that isn't to say that there aren't others whose values are consistent with the president's who would have checked off those same boxes. Then Nancy Pelosi said that the question doesn't matter because the vice president doesn't do much anyway. But Kamala Harris is a source of strength, inspiration, intellectual resource, and the rest. And I think that she represents our country very well at home and abroad. That's what Nancy Pelosi says. Right. Here's Kamala Harris laughing hysterically when discussing struggling parents who aren't able to send their kids to school during COVID-19. If you guys need a reminder of how awful Kamala Harris is, here we go. Let's take a listen to Kamala Harris.
Yeah, affordable childcare is a big deal. More parents are seeing the value of educators when they had to bring their kids and say, we're not paying them nearly enough. More people are seeing.
Literally hysterically laughing. What is she doing? Oh, that was not a good look. She laughs hysterically when discussing the struggling parents who aren't able to afford to send their kids to school, and she's up there laughing. But yes, she is a source of inspiration, and she's an intellectual resource. Okay, whatever you say, Nancy Pelosi. However, in Kamala Harris's defense, the worst part of Nancy's interview came with another question she couldn't answer no to. So she couldn't answer, yes, Kamala Harris would be a great vice president. She also couldn't answer no to this question. CNN Anderson Cooper says, is there any chance Biden does not continue running? And then she goes, I hope not. I hope not. So you're saying there's a chance that Biden will stop running for the presidential race in 2024. All right, I've got to take a quick break, but we're going to be back on the other side. This is the Morning Buzz, talking about Pornhub. The executive, he spilled beans. He said that Pornhub actually supports and monetizes off of rapists, human trafficking, rape victims, human trafficking victims. They monetize off of those crimes, and they're cool with it. They're not going to stop it. They're not going to do anything to stop it. That's next on the Morning Buzz. Whew. I can't understand why. Why in the world would Alexi Julianis be out there talking about books, book bans? Isn't he supposed to be working for the DMV and working on behalf of the people of Illinois for DMV things? I mean, the Secretary of State. I don't even really know what the Secretary of State does other than the DMV and stuff about that, renewing licenses. He was actually on a local radio station, and I am a masochist, and I had to listen to what he was talking about. And he was talking about how you have to schedule appointments now. Like, you can't just walk into the DMV anymore. That's not a thing, which I don't like that, because then they have to have all of my information beforehand. And I just kind of like walking in. But he was on a local station and talking about how you can't do scheduled appointments anymore. So we've got Alexi Julianis joining me in studio to talk about this story. Senator Kennedy, really the real MVP here, bringing light to these issues. David Paul Blumenshine joins me to unpack it. David Paul Blumenshine, The David Paul Blumenshine Show, Sunday from 1 to 3. David, how are you this morning?
Well, good morning, Kat. I am doing as well as I can. My daughter Hannah just embarked on a new journey of life and packed up her things, and she took off down the road. That's a song, Kat, just in case you didn't know.
Took off down the road.
She's headed to Nashville, Tennessee.
That's a great place to be.
So partly because probably Secretary of State Julianis is carrying water for J.B. Pritzker on this legislation that they passed here. And he wanted to point that out to Senator Kennedy. And Senator Kennedy wasn't having anything to do with it. He's like, I don't need these platitudes. I don't need this politicization of calling out parents as the problem.
I've got the clip.
Yeah.
Let's take a listen to the clip. Senator Kennedy, and folks, full disclosure, if your kids are in the car, you might want to turn it down a little bit, because Senator Kennedy actually is reading a book that was found in our public library, actually. And
it's at our public schools.
Schools. It's called Genderqueer. I've seen the books. I've seen raunchier books than even Genderqueer in the kids section at the Bloomington Public Library. So let's take a listen to John Kennedy. Here we go.
And I began to slide into him from behind. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. He asked me to turn over while he slipped a condom on himself. This was my ass, and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me. He got on top and slowly inserted himself into me. It was the worst pain I think I have ever felt in my life. Eventually, I felt a mix of pleasure with the pain. Close quote. All boys aren't blue. The second is another much discussed book. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's called Genderqueer. Okay. Let me read an excerpt from that. Quote, I got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to put it on you. It will fit my favorite dildo perfectly. You're going to look so hot. I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me. End quote. Now, Mr. Secretary.
Julianis.
What are you asking us to do?
Pride of Illinois.
Are you suggesting that only librarians should decide whether the two books that I just referenced should be available to kids? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. Tell me what you're saying.
Well, first of all, there's this.
Don't give me a speech. Tell me what you're asking me to do.
With all due respect, Senator, and
All due
the
respect.
words you spoke are disturbing, especially
Disturbing.
coming out of your mouth is very
Liberals
disturbing.
think it's
But
disturbing
what I would
too.
also tell you
Okay,
that
we'll agree on that.
we're not advocating for kids to read porn, to Senator Booker's
What
point.
are you advocating for?
Okay.
We are advocating for parents, random parents, not to have the ability, under the guise of keeping kids safe, to try and challenge the world view of every single manner on these
Wow.
issues.
You're getting
Word salad.
conceptual game.
Yeah,
I'm not getting conceptual. I'm saying
yes,
that
you are.
Random
Yes, you
parents.
are. Because
Kat, who does Alexi Julianis and J.B. Pritzker and Juliana Stratton and the rest of the Third Reich of the state of Illinois consider random? That's my question, Alexi. Who are random parents? Parents that are sending their children taxpayer funded to government schools for indoctrination and perversion? Is that what he's talking about? Alexi, if you get wind that we covered this story, please reach out to Cities 92.9. We would love to have you come in studio because you thought Senator Kennedy asked you some tough questions. I've got a lot of questions for you.
Yeah. Well, and then the gaslighting. That's what it is for me. They say that that's not happening. Dick Durbin will say that we're banning books like it's called Mouse. It's MAUS. I read that book in grade school, and that is not the books that these parents are talking about.
No.
We are talking
Red
about
Badge of Courage. No, the Catcher in the Rye. No, that's not the literature they're talking about.
they're talking about genderqueer. It's been very, very
We're
clear what
talking
we're
about
talking about.
pornography in the school system. If you want pornography, by all means, if you're of age and it's age of, you're at an age of that is deemed legal, I think you have to be to buy pornography. Do you have to be 18 or is it 21?
I don't know.
I don't even know. We got ages.
I don't know. It doesn't matter anymore. That's the thing. It's because it's all online. And it's all in the kids' libraries.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. And they're complicit. This plausible deniability. I've sat and listened to these people over and over. And yes, you're right. I said it. These people, these liberals are embarrassed by their own direction and where they're going. And I've sat and listened to board meeting after board meeting after board meeting. And you're right, Kat. They deny it. They deny culturally relevant teaching or CRT. They deny diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is all part of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's indoctrination.
They will just flat out lie and say that genderqueer isn't on the shelf, which is a flat out lie because I've seen the roles you can FOIA what's checked out at Unit 5 in District 87.
Yeah.
I've seen kids check out genderqueer.
Yeah.
It's in libraries.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can't sit there and gaslight me and say that it's not there when it's there. We're not talking about Catcher in the Rye. We're not talking about these other books. We're talking about genderqueer. We're talking about these books that are on, and they changed the definition of book ban. Did you know that? It's called pen something, pen literature or whatever, and they changed the definition of what a book ban is. It's simply the removal of a book from a shelf.
Yeah.
That is not a book ban.
No.
Taking a book off of a shelf is not a book ban.
Yeah.
It's just removing the book from the shelf. It's just like taking the book off the shelf. I just don't understand.
It is gone to a level.
And why him? I mean, just like the Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, this guy is like a little lapdog for JB.
Well, they do. They carry water because they have an initiative. Once again, this entire administration believes someday they will be in Washington, D.C. They would like to it's the road show, right? They'd like to take everything Illinois to the rest of the United States of America because only in America can you live like Alexi Julianis as a random parent.
Yeah. I'm sure he's going to drop a mixtape sometime soon. Did you see his campaign video where he's like, I think it's a mixtape or it's like some sort of rap video.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like John Fetterman wearing cargo shorts. Have we no couth, no class?
Yeah.
No
I just want to know,
professionalism?
does Alexi Julianis represent random parents? Because if these random parents are taxpayers in the state of Illinois, don't they have a voice? I mean, at what point are we going to realize that you've alienated 50% of the people in Illinois?
Mm-hmm. On the other side, we're going to be talking a little bit about, speaking of John Fetterman, let's talk about the impeachment inquiry. And John Fetterman, David Paul, did you see that he has a new mustache?
Oh.
It's like a Freddie Mercury mustache.
Oh, boy.
Let's look at it.
Cincinnati Reds. the constant moving.
Yeah. We're talking about John Fetterman's mustache, and
Yes.
we know that Giselle Fetterman isn't going to tell him to shave it off because it looks terrible because she hates him, right? Now, I don't know if the goal was to make him look like he shouldn't be within 50 feet of a schoolyard, but that's definitely what it looks like. His staffer needs to come into the middle of the night and just take an electric razor and just go if they cared anything about him, because this mustache is weird.
You know, once again, obviously Fetterman is a living example of election interference and fixing elections. How in the world does this man win the people's vote? It's not plausible. It doesn't make sense. It's not logical.
Yeah, and if it's not well, and I know it's outright, we can go into the voter rolls, the numbers, and things
Yeah.
like that.
And
We could go
especially in
in.
Pennsylvania, since their General Assembly came out and made it so that they could do all these crazy things in adjudication, which is basically certifying the vote after the voting day.
Wow, and that's changing election law, and there's a process to change election law, and they've been going through that process.
Well, they went against the judge's order because that is the Marxist way of doing things. Who cares what the Supreme Court says or any office are held by a justice or a judge?
Yeah, and
That's purely just for,
well, and the Joe Biden and the student loans.
Yeah.
Right. So people have come out
On
and
and on
told
and
me
on.
that this what is it? IRS or no, it's oh gosh, I forget what it's called. I don't know, but it's a different loan. It's a different loan forgiveness program than what was originally proposed via the Supreme Court of
Mhm.
the United States.
Well,
But
there's
it's
a lot of
not.
them. So you have the income-based loan repayment program. You
Mhm.
have the public service loan forgiveness program. There's a plethora of different loan programs
Mhm.
out there that, technically speaking, deal with loan forgiveness.
Mhm.
But there's a certain amount of buy-in from the borrower who owes the debt. They have to perform, meaning they have to make 120 payments so that's 10 years, but they have to make payments. And then the loan is forgiven. If they are involved in public service, income-based loan repayment really doesn't get rid of the interest. So if you're on a deferment or a forbearance or an income-based loan, you could be accruing interest, which means it really doesn't matter if you're paying because it's like a credit card.
Yeah.
You're making the minimum payment.
Yeah. Well, and what the leftists are trying to say is that these student loan forgiveness programs are different than that of the one that was before the Supreme Court of the United States, but it's not.
No.
Because of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain threshold that the Supreme Court said
Yes.
that the buyer has to be responsible for. The
Yeah.
student loan borrower
Yeah.
has to be responsible for.
Yeah.
And what he is doing is outright forgiving
Yeah.
loans. All of it.
Just, yep.
To people.
It's a write-off.
Yeah.
And that happens, especially, have you seen the piece that Tucker Carlson did on Argentina?
No, and I want to.
Well,
I haven't been able
it's not the interview. It's just the small snippet of he's building it up because he's interviewing this presidential candidate who looks like he's going to be he's an economist and he seems like a rock star down there. But basically he talks about Argentina being one of the wealthiest countries in the world. And what has happened? Once again, they printed a lot of money, devalued the peso in their country. They didn't take away the resources, but now people don't work in their country. Only 7 million people are working in the private sector to support 47 million people because 3.5 million work for the government.
I'm going to listen to a little bit of
Yeah.
it when we come back, and we'll talk about it. So is he trying to say that the U.S. that could happen?
That's where we're going. When you devalue the dollar, it takes more of your dollars to live. And at some point, because he did an exchange, he gave $100 bill at one of these places where you could still exchange without the government ripping you off. Because most of the government exchanges are, you give them $100, they give you half of the $100 value in pesos. He was actually getting the full value of $100. And he ended up with a stack of pesos like this. He said, how does one carry around $100 in pesos? And the lady says, in a bag. That is the undergirding where they implode the economy. That
Well,
doesn't affect Joe Biden.
And here's
Obviously,
the thing.
he gets
in the
money from everywhere.
70s with Jimmy Carter, right?
Yep.
They tanked the US dollar.
Yep.
What brought it back was the
Mhm.
petrodollar. So going into Iraq and invading for the oil.
Yep.
We invaded Iraq after 9/11, and we said that, I'm not going to get into, 9/11 and who actually crashed into planes and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
all. There's a lot of questions. But point is, Bush got us into this 20-year war, and people really like Bush because we saw the U.S. dollar restored, but we've backed it on oil, which is extremely problematic. And we should go back to the gold standard, right? Back it gold.
Liquid gold is oil, petro. That's what they call it, liquid gold. And you're right. It's the manipulation. These people they play a game of Risk. Have you ever seen the board game Risk? That's what this is.
Risk.
It's
Money
world
isn't real.
economics. And that's what they play with.
All right, hold on. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz, and David Paul Blumenshine joining me in studio. He's got the David Paul Blumenshine Show on Sundays from 1 to 3. We've only got a couple of minutes left, but I do want to play a little bit of Tucker Carlson's video here on X, Twitter, and then we'll talk about it for about a minute. DPP, here we go.
For politicians, money is power. They always crave more. But because they don't actually produce anything, they've got limited ways to get it. They can hike taxes on the population and collect the cash at gunpoint. That's the most straightforward way. But it's also highly unpopular. Voters don't like paying higher taxes. They resent it. So over time, most politicians in most places decide it's a lot easier to devalue the currency. You keep the tax rate pretty much the same, you just print more money. At first, most people don't even notice that it's happening. The money seems free. This is how the US government just paid for the COVID checks and the war in Ukraine and pretty much everything else that Washington has done for the past couple of decades.
Money isn't real. All right, folks. We've got about a minute left. And David Paul, I know you watched the whole clip. Can you sum it up for me?
Well, basically, he covers Argentina, and they used to be one of the wealthiest countries in the world. And unfortunately, their resources didn't go away. Their people didn't, go away. They still have the same population. What went away was the value of their dollar. Now people don't even go to work. The 1/7 of the population is actually supporting the 47 million now.
Folks, that's going to do it for us.
Sound familiar?
Yeah, it's going to happen here. It's going to happen.
It's coming to a city near you.
We're going to be trading. Okay, DPP. So what will 3 berries and a gallon of milk get me? Can we exchange?
I know whatever it isn't going to impact Julianis or Kwame Raoul or Juliana Stratton or the big guy.
Yeah.
The big guy, JB.
JB. All right, we're going to be back tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. I have a big show planned for you. You guys won't want to miss it. Glenn Beck is up after me.